Hello and good morning Year 3. Welcome to day number 18. Today, during your writing lesson, I'd like you to have a go at writing a recount or a diary entry. For maths today, I'd like you to solve some problems involving fractions. And then this afternoon, to celebrate the feast day of St. Catherine of Siena, I'd like us to take part in an RE lesson. Okay, the question is, will we find out who the girl with the blue streak in her hair actually is? Let's find out in chapter 18 of Hamish and the Worldstoppers. They want what? Hamish, and the girl with the blue streak in her hair, whose name he still did not know, sat on the bench by the town clock and rested their feet on her huge backpack. Around them, the people are starkly but innocently about their business. Two dogs started to bark at each other. A man dropped a coin and shouted a rude word. Mr. Slackjaw stood outside Slackjaw's Motors, staring at his last few Vespers and shaking his head. There was a policeman next to him taking notes. And to their side, a lady began to hammer a poster into a tree that read, "Come to the fair!" "Don't you ever feel you should tell someone?" said Hamish, pointing at the people milling around. "Is it just us that know?" The girl nodded and took a lick of a lollipop. "Yes, it's just us. No one else knows. Just you and me. Now, look at this." She unfolded a piece of paper. It had a chart on it and various working outs in bright blue and red pen. It had the name Elliot at the bottom. "Who's Elliot?" asked Hamish. "Never mind that," she said dismissively. "By my calculations, based on the length and frequency of recent pauses, we can expect another one at around 10 to 6 this evening." "So they're coming," said Hamish, glancing nervously around. "They're coming again." "The Terribles don't use every pause for evil," she said. "Sometimes they don't show up at all. I think some of the pauses must be used for resting or for admin." "Admin," said Hamish. "Well, you don't take over the world without at least a little planning," she replied knowingly. "Aren't you terrified?" asked Hamish. "How can you be so calm?" "I used to be scared," she said. "But not anymore. I'm not scared of anything anymore." "Last night they took my neighbour," said Hamish. "I didn't know they took people. What do they want with the grown-ups? And how do you know so much about all of this?" The girl's face softened a little. "I know because they took my parents," she said quietly. A thought began to form at the back of Hamish's mind. His heart swelled a little, and something flipped inside his tummy. "What do you mean they took your parents?" he asked. "I mean," said the girl, her stare turning into a look of sadness, "that one day my parents were there, in the house with me, and then one day they weren't. So you just woke up and they were gone." Hamish didn't quite know what to say. He wanted to tell her about his own dad and the day the Vauxhall hadn't returned, but it felt too selfish somehow. This was her moment. "I looked for them," she said. "I thought maybe I'd forgotten that they were going to visit my auntie or something. But then I saw they'd left their phones at home and their car was still there. So I waited and I waited. I stayed at home all day. And as it got darker and darker, I got more and more frightened. When it got to around 1 in the morning, I just decided to call the police when the sky flashed." "Yes," she said. "And the Terribles came out." "Oh, Hamish," she said. "It was the worst. They arrived on their equines." "Equines? Haven't you seen them? The equines are the horrible lizard horse things that the Terribles ride about on." Hamish shuddered as he recalled those horrible creatures. "They were slinking around my street. The whole world was still. They were creeping into houses, and they stole old Mr. Neat who lived next door. They just flung him over their shoulders like he was a bag of old nuts, she said. So, what did you do? I did nothing. I just kept still like everyone else. And they didn't seem to notice me, so I've been doing it ever since. Hamish could see that this girl was a fighter. She was living on her own, with no one to tell about what happened to her parents. I ran out of money quickly, so I used to just go to the Lord of the Fries every night and take fish burgers, she said. My fridge was packed with them. But then I realised I could use the pause to do shopping, and now I'm pleased to say I've discovered the benefits of vitamins and 5-a-days. She made a pompous face. But why haven't you told anyone? He asked. In case the Terribles find out it was me who told, she said. I thought I was the only person in the world who knew. It always used to happen at night, so I could hide away. And anyway, I thought that if I watched and observed for long enough, then maybe I could find my parents again. She looked at him very seriously. Because here's the thing, Hamish, she said. I think they're taking a lot of grown-ups, but it's the weak ones that return to Starkley. They're the ones that are easy to brainwash, and they come back processed, like bad cheese, all curdled and stinky. I'm sure the strong adults, like my parents, are out there somewhere. They won't give in. The Terribles have got them, but the weak ones come back processed and mean. Hamish thought about it. Mr. Longbrother was certainly meaner than usual. Frau Fussbundler too. And what about Tyrus Quinn? Or Rex Ox with his football-firing leaf-blower? Oh, and my goodness, yes, Madame Cuscus and her awful big stick. The girl was right. It was perfectly clear that adults were getting meaner. So maybe the Terribles were processing them and sending them back. The day after he was taken, said the girl, old Mr. Neat returned. He kicked his cat, then put up a sign on his lawn saying, "Junk mailers will be shot." Now, he just sits outside his house throwing apples at children and making rude hand gestures at the vicar. Hamish was having trouble making sense of it all. But why are the Terribles turning people mean? He asked. So that we fight, so that we argue, so that the world is a horrible place that we don't even want anymore. I think they've started in Starkley because it's so boring that hardly anyone ever comes here. They're testing things out, and if it works, I think they'll turn the whole world mean. And that's when they'll take over. When we're too mean to even care. Hamish was horrified. Could the very future of life on Earth be at stake? Right here in Starkley? If so, it looked like it might have to give its fourth most boring town certificate back. Hamish did have one more question, but he was almost too scared to ask. Only he knew he had to. My dad didn't come home one night, he said carefully, avoiding her eye. Do you think perhaps he might have been taken? The girl smiled a gentle smile. I don't know, Hamish, she said. It's possible, but I just don't know. Was he weak, or was he strong? He was the strongest, thought Hamish. He was the tallest, and he'd never give in to a bunch of ugly monsters. But, at the same time, what if he hadn't been taken? What if one day he'd just woken up and he was bored of his life? What if he was bored of Hamish? Maybe it was better never to know, because if that was the truth, it was almost worse than any bunch of rampaging monsters. I have to go, said the girl, pointing up at the clock. I've got a meeting. A meeting? A meeting with who? Never you mind with who, she said. And anyway, it's whom. She heaved a huge backpack onto her little shoulders. "When will I see you again?" he said. "Or is it you?" She smiled but said nothing. "Later on," he tried, "during the next pause." "You know what you need to do during the next pause," she said, turning back to face him. "You need to get your watch back. Something like that could really help us in the fight." "Us?" thought Hamish. "And one more thing," she said. "You said your mum works in the complaints office. You said she had a graph, one that showed all of the complaints." Hamish nodded, confused. "Bring it next time, okay?" Okay, he replied. "Maybe we were meant to meet, Hamish Ellaby," she said, as she began to walk away. "Wait, what's your name?" he said. "Please?" "Alice," said the girl, without turning around. "My name is Alice Shepherd." Well, hey, we finally found out who the mysterious girl is. I hope you enjoyed today's reading, Year 3, and I hope you enjoyed today's tasks. If you would like to share your work with me, or if you would like to ask me a question, please do email me at year3@stalbanrc.beham.sch.uk. I always look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, stay safe, look after each other, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye for now.